Hey everybody, I'm really excited to be here. Welcome to Why Don't You Listen, a benefit concert for Cameron House and Chinatown Community Development Center with our co-headliners, Son of Paper and Alex Luu. My name is Erica G and I'm with Chinatown CDC.
And I'm Lorene Chan with Cameron House, and we'll be your co-hosts for today's concert. Son of Paper, Kyle Shin, and Alex Luu met back in 2018 at a collaboration open mic event in Koreatown, Los Angeles. Erica, I didn't know this, but collaboration is the largest talent competition for Asian Americans.
That's right. And then since then, Kyle and Alex have watched each other grow as artists and have always shown love to each other's work. Today, the two have finally had a chance to touch mics as Why Don't You Listen co-headliners.
This is such an exciting event that we have for all of you this afternoon. We're so glad you're here. And as an added treat after the concert, we'll have a time of Q&A with the artists and your questions. So be sure to stay for that time of rich discussion. Erica, can you tell us a bit about yourself and Chinatown CDC?
Yes, so I served as a planner at Chinatown Community Development Center, whose mission it is to bring community and enhance the quality of life for San Francisco residents, primarily those in Chinatown. So CCDC, as we're also called, serves as neighborhood advocates, organizers, and planners, as well as developers and managers of affordable housing throughout the city. Let's take a short look about Chinatown CDC through this video.
These are the pathways that take us home to our families after a long day. The Chinatown Community Development Center began here on the streets of Chinatown. For over 200 years, this community has shown resilience by surviving crisis after crisis, thanks to the strong network of community leaders and institutions. CCDC is here to help Chinatown stay resilient through our mission to build lasting community, which we do in two ways. We build community through developing strong leaders, and we do it block by block by building affordable housing.
Dear Chinatown.
Dear Chinatown.
Dear Chinatown. Dear Portsmouth Square.
The oldest public space in the city.
You've welcomed the new year.
With lion dances and fireworks.
You've hosted protests and candlelight vigils.
Card games and hide and seek.
You are the living room of Chinatown.
CCDC's heart and soul has been the activism of its people, the residents of Chinatown. We do this grassroots work every day, year after year. So when crises arise, we're ready to respond. That's exactly what we did with our COVID-19 response. We immediately pivoted our efforts to address this new emergency, feeding our community and keeping them safe.
Dear Chinatown.
Dear Chinatown.
Dear Chinatown. Dear bricks, mortar, and pillars.
The earthquake of 1906.
You knocked us down, but not out.
Amid the fire and rubble, with forces trying to push us out, we rebuilt.
Restaurants, grocery stores, and factories.
Churches, Chinese schools, and family associations.
We built Bayside, 201 Turk, and the I Hotel.
We reimagined and we reinvested.
Through crisis, then and now, we built community.
San Francisco was built and continues to be built by regular people, working class residents of our community. Grocers, construction workers, dim sum shop owners. CCDC supports this community by building new homes and rehabilitating older spaces, so working families can have a better quality of life, and our seniors can be secure to stay in their homes.
Dear Chinatown.
Dear Chinatown.
Dear Chinatown.
Thank you.
Thank you. 多謝.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your resilience
Your resilience
Your resilience is our strength.
Right on. Let's hear it for Chinatown CDC. Thank you for sharing that video, Erica. Also wanted to highlight Chinatown CDC's relaunching of the Feed and Fuel Chinatown that addresses the resurging needs of Chinatown businesses and residents living in single-room occupancy hotels. We invite everyone here today to support the continued amazing work of Chinatown CDC. This benefit concert also supports Donaldina Cameron House, where I work as a youth worker. Cameron House is a multi-social services agency having provided programs and services for generations of Chinese youth and families around youth and leadership development, domestic violence intervention, and mental health support and counseling in the mother languages of Cantonese, Vietnamese, and Mandarin. Son of Paper, Kyle Shin grew up in Cameron House's leadership programs, and we're so proud of the heart, leadership, and talent that he's chosen to share with us all these years. Let's take a look now at a short video about Cameron House.
Cameron House is a community and faith-based organization located here in San Francisco, in the heart of San Francisco, Chinatown. We were established back in 1874. We provide linguistically and culturally appropriate services to kind of lessen the barriers of people in our community. Our services are low cost or no cost, and we have trained and experienced staff who can speak English, Cantonese, and Mandarin. Besides our youth programs, we provide counseling, domestic violence intervention, ESL and computer classes for adults. We also have interactive parent-child workshops and a Chinese cancer support group for patients and their family members.
If I wasn't introduced to Cameron House, my life would have been very different, considering the fact that my mom was a new immigrant and she didn't speak much English. Having to manage 2 young children would have been very difficult without Cameron House. In certain families, like very traditional families, mental health is stigmatized. Cameron House has made me much more comfortable about therapy. It was nice having someone to meet up with, someone to talk to, someone that wouldn't judge me.
The people at Cameron House really make you feel welcome from the moment you step in the doors. Flora, who's at the front desk, always says, "Hi, Nikki." I was one of those kids that I was more into creative arts, not so much as in running around playing games and doing that kinds of stuff. Because I've been at Cameron House, I feel like I've gotten a lot more outgoing. I've really honed my leadership skills, and I wouldn't really be as confident if I hadn't come here.
It's about providing allies, mentors, a program, experiences for young people where they can really have a safe place to become who they're supposed to be. A lot of people we meet, it's kind of hard to figure out what it is that they need, whatever defenses, whatever walls they've put up because of things that have happened in their life. So we're not here to just break the wall down, but little by little, help take the wall away so that we can really see them and they can really see that we care about them.
We believe that when people experience a community of acceptance and care, that they would also be empowered to spread that goodness into the world. And for many generations, this is exactly what we've been doing here.
I'm always so inspired by what Cameron House does. A big thank you to Kyle and Alex for doing this benefit concert for both of our organizations. And thank you all who are here with us today. So our featured artists wanted to acknowledge the impact of COVID and anti-Asian violence on our communities. Since the beginning of the pandemic, Stop AAPI Hate has tracked over nearly 3,800 anti-Asian hate incidents nationwide, and these include verbal abuse, physical attacks, and the deaths in Atlanta. In this climate, people have felt unseen and helpless in wanting to protect our elders and our community. So we would like to take this moment to commemorate and honor the lives lost to anti-Asian violence. Please mute your mics as we read their names in remembrance.
Xiao Jie Tan, 49. Dao Yu Feng, 44. Vicha Ratna Pakdi, 84. Yik Oi Huang, 89.
Grant Kim Hyun Jung, 51. Kim Sonja, age 69. Yu Yong E, 63. Park Sun Jong, age 74.
In light of what has happened and our ongoing struggles, we need hope. And tonight we hear the powerful voices of our featured artists.
Let's get it started, Erica. Alex Luu is a multidisciplinary spoken word artist. Through conversational humor and introspective reflection, his work explores his Chinese and Vietnamese heritage, intergenerational trauma, mental health, and the practice of self-love. His work has been featured on platforms such as All Deaf Poetry, Slam Find, KCET, and most importantly, his mother's heart.
What's up, everybody? My name's Alex Luu. Thank you so much, Lorene, for that wonderful introduction. So yeah, I'm a spoken word poet and performer. And for those who are new to the art form of spoken word, what that is basically poetry that's off the page and now on the stage, but in this instance on y'all's screen. So it's super great that y'all came here, and I'm super grateful to be performing in hopes to fundraise for Cameron House and CCDC. If you were here earlier, you saw what their mission was about, and you know what our purpose is here today, which is to be artists celebrating our heritage, our family, our resistance as Asian Americans, commemorating the lives lost. We honor them through our stories. You guys have heard my guy, Kyle, son of Paper, do his thing. And so I'm here to tell y'all a little bit about who I am and what my family story is. But before I even get to that, I want to see if anyone here is looking to learn some Chinese today. So feel free to raise your hands if you want to learn some Chinese Mandarin today. I'm gonna look down at the screen real quick. Oh, snap. Oh, snap. People are raising their hands. Okay, we're about to get cultured here. All right, y'all. So the first rule when speaking Chinese is knowing that a word can mean different things based on how you announce it, right? So let's take the word ma, for example. That means horse. Now, if we take that same word and give it some umph like this, ma, that means to scold. And mama means mom. So what happens when we put it all together? It would sound like, wo mama, the ma, which translates to, I scolded my mother's horse. A lesson to speak with conviction or else not speak at all. This language is as much a dance of the tongue as it is a painting on page. Sentence structure goes as follows. The subject, then the setting, followed by the verb and object. There's an emphasis for the speaker to know when and where they are before they announce where they are going. A lesson on being grounded, on knowing your roots, on forgiving your history to allow space for the future. In an effort to teach me her past, my mother would not let me eat until I could ask for dinner in her native tongue. Even when I was like, but mom, I'm so hungry. She replied, 我听不懂 你应该学中文. Huh? I can't understand you. Maybe you should learn Chinese. Her way of saying, see, child born of our sacrifices. This is how it feels to be us. To pack a lineage in 2 suitcases and gamble our last names with the ocean, only to starve at the shoreline. Getting by with what she's got is all she's ever known, which is why I was the only English tutor my mother could afford. Since the age I could speak or to finish my homework early so I could teach her what I just learned in class. And truth be told, y'all, I was not the best teacher. But neither does the colonizer's language make the most sense. See, English is composed of 26 letters, a really crappy grammar system, and Americans who still have trouble with there, and there. Example, there are many times when they're taking what isn't theirs, like my mother's voice, like my heritage, like my culture forged into tattoos. See, in English, a word means different things based on context. The word immigrant from Europe means citizen, from anywhere else means illegal or return address. See, it's not that English is so difficult to understand. It's that my mother refuses to be a victim. Fact, Chinese is considered the hardest living language to learn. So when my mother is speaking English, she is downgrading a dynasty into a coffee shop for your convenience. She tastes colonialism and starts to stutter a syllabus for survival, her tongue breaking itself to impersonate America. When you hear her accent, I swear to God, you better thank her for trying just last week, y'all. My mother and I were watching a Chinese film with no subtitles. I didn't need to fully understand the dialogue to know that my mother was happy. That to her, Jackie Chan was the heartthrob that sounded like home and looked like a snack, like a home-cooked meal she didn't have to make herself, like Big Brother made it in America too, mommy, and so can we. To anyone who has ever told my mother to learn English, check the statistics. Chinese is the most spoken language in the world. Maybe you should 学中文.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex. You already know I've told you this many times. That is one of my favorite poems of yours. I'm just going to read some of the comments so that we don't lose this and we can remember. People were hyped that you were talking about Mandarin and said, go in, Alex. Preach, Alex. Yes, let's go. Beautiful. My mom, Kimchi Mama, says that was excellent. Bravo. Awesome. And we are just putting, and just for anyone that's curious about what we're doing in the chat, we're putting lyrics in, and we're also putting in donation links. So if you want to donate to Cameron House and CCDC, the links will be there directly, and we would really, really appreciate it. That's why we're doing this concert, not just to perform, but to raise money and help these organizations out. All right. This next poem of mine is my only poem I'm going to perform today. I think Alex is doing most of the heavy lifting there. This one is called Foghorns. And if you were at the Cameron House VPA, I did a video for it, but I've never performed it. So this will be my first time doing it live. So bear with me, and I hope you enjoy. It's dedicated to my grandfather. Foghorns. The people on the ship my great-grandmother took to America must have thought that foghorns were war horns, and that white ghosts with mustaches were Vikings. But not even they were as ruthless as the KKK. And so when I told you, Ma, that I wanted to skip school to attend Gong Gong's funeral back in 2018. I wish that you saw my eyes before saying no. Our lineage is like bandages, and we must choose whether to tighten our language skills or unravel our traditions. As we speak, these ghosts are stealing our culture, our food, and our hair. Did you see the cute fox eye trend on TikTok? I can't even count how many times at the friend's school that they pulled the corners of their eyes back like bow and arrows to mock these almond-shaped eyes. So tell me, is this torch worth passing on if your traumas are still burning in me? Thank you.
Let that sit right there, y'all. Is this torch worth passing on if your traumas are still burning within me? Beautiful piece, Kyle. Really glad that you shared that piece. Just to give y'all a little bit more context about me and Kyle, aka Son of Paper. We've been friends ever since we met through collaboration and doing shows together, and to see that he's trying his hand in spoken word, which is a, you know, sister art form to the art form of hip hop and rap music. There's something about the ambiance of spoken word to allow people to really sit with the honesty of your words. And so that's essentially what we're here to do as Asian Americans, as artists, is essentially to be the historians of our family's experience, of our own experience. And so these are the traumas, these are the things, these are the torches that are being passed on. All the wins, all the celebrations, and all the pain and the struggle that it took to get there. And so this next piece that I have is dedicated to just that. Before I get into it, though, I'm gonna have to take a step back and jump into it. So it's something new I haven't tried, but I'll just take you all along for the ride. I'll be right back. Oh, you, sir, you look like, I'm sorry, but you look like my Taekwondo instructor, or like a thick Bruce Lee. Now, hold up now, son. I hope you don't take no offense to this, but I have this friend, right? And you look just like her son. Yo, people swear they've seen me before in a train once, with a man they should have loved long ago. That one was weird. Or the best friend they lost at war. And that one was sad. So when my grandma tells me I look just like my grandfather, our conversations start to feel like a bad joke. Like, what would she give to take back his heart attack, only to have her heart break at the sight of me? Like the universe said, well, you know, this is what you prayed for. And suddenly my hugs become grandpa's phantom limbs. And I wonder if it is a curse to be reborn in the face of my ancestors, reminder of the once lost. My smile looks like an old wound, the cut I reopen every time I smile. Why? You know, to be the offspring of immigrants is to know even happiness is a privilege. And my depression says, I am loved only for my potential to become someone else they already look up to. And most days, y'all, I am not worthy of a refugee's reflection. But on my 18th birthday, Dad gave me one of Grandpa's leather jackets, whose sleeves I still can't fill, but insists I keep it anyways. Tells me a Gong used to wear this. He used to look so cool. And on days I feel I don't deserve every good thing that comes, I remember why I cannot die. Memories I have not lived are attached to my smile. I am still the reason Dad did not join Grandpa that night. He is still fighting for the man I will become. If I am my grandfather's reincarnation, I promise Grandma I won't be leaving soon. I will not die. I cannot die. Every day I'm alive, I'm reminded I look like someone else is surviving for, and I am living for the day I get to respond, yeah, I see the resemblance. And damn, I look good, smiling bright like a new day, because don't I look like an encore? Don't I look like a second chance? Don't I look like Grandpa never left? He just left me in charge.
Wow, everybody snap it up. Wow. Who else has experienced being mistaken for someone else? I'm sure it's a very common experience. But Alex, you really elevated that concept to another level with that poem. This next song I will perform is called Ride With Me, and it has a call and response element. And so I'm going to teach you one part, and of course I can't hear you, but like it's Dora, I'm going to pretend like I can hear you loud and clear. So when I say ride with me, or whenever you hear that section, happens a lot in the chorus. So just kind of sing along with that. Who's from San Francisco? Make some noise in the chat. You might recognize a lot of places in this little love letter I wrote for the city. All right. For the city, hey, come on, yeah, right, I say, ride with me, all right, just like that, hey, yeah, looking so good, looking so fine, life is no cash, someone putting in time, say the word, if you stir, we could go, mastering the craft, and the city is my dojo, we flow, take a ride with me, I could take you Golden Gate, Bridge City, oh, ride with me, Carl is rolling fast, so we just take it slow, ride with me, sticky, shifty, so we ride that struggle bus, ride with me, having you, I always knew I love you, but texting my ex-bae, wait, let me explain, girl, you a queen, I'm a rook in this chess game, she a star, she embracing me back, 18 years, she a pacing around, 1800 be my standardized test score, the pain's wet, but in retrospect, tears are the best part, ain't no thing realer, watching grow up, be a hatred dealer, so I'm riding, I could take you Golden Gate, Bridge City, oh, ride with me, Carl is rolling fast, so we just take it slow, sticky, shifty, so we ride that struggle bus, having you, I always knew I love you, but till now, J to the C to the town, J to the hook to the proud, what I've been about, spend every day cheesing, life is all good when you ain't got seasons, Jesus, been away for a long time, East Coast there is no sunshine, day getting darker, no sun hat, wait, who gon' bring my sun back on a paper, I could take you Golden Gate, Bridge City, oh, ride with me, Carl is rolling fast, so we just take it slow, ride with me, sticky, shifty, so we ride that struggle bus, having you, I always knew I love you, but everyone say, stuck at home, yeah, okay, you're stuck at home, cause of COVID, hey, stuck at home, one more time, y'all, hey, stuck at home, but we're here, y'all, thank you very much, that song was called Ride With Me, and it's on YouTube and SoundCloud. Please donate, please keep letting us know how you feel, we really appreciate how active the chat is, me and Alex couldn't have asked for a better virtual show.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. There we go. Kyle is bringing in the vibes. I know I can't. That's love, and that's love for the city. That's love for your community. That's love for the people. Let me see what the people are saying. Man, they're with you on that course, man. They're all riding with you. Ride that struggle bus. Yes. Stuck at home. That's all we're doing. Man, thank you, Kyle, for sharing that piece and for bringing us together in your music, man. And I think that's what we need most of all is we need community, we need people, and we need art. We need art to tell the stories that we don't get to tell on our day-to-day. There's so many things that hold us back, you know, whether it be your job, whether it be family, whether it be things that you haven't figured out yourself. And so it's the role and responsibility of us, me and Son of Paper as artists, to really translate our experiences and hope that one day someone can relate and that it saves someone's life. Someone who saved, and in fact, been the root of my life has been my grandfather, who had passed away at the age of 45 when my father was just 23 years old. And I wasn't even in the picture then. And my father had to grow up in his early 20s to later adulthood without his father. And I thought of all the trauma, all the responsibilities he had to take on as a man, and also being an Asian man, and how that shaped him into the father that he is today, a man who's full of love but can't express it because the circumstances of his life held him back from that. So I wrote this next poem from the persona of my grandfather, speaking to my father and telling him the things that I think he would say, things that I hope I want my father to learn as well. And so this next piece is titled "The Letter My Grandpa Never Gave My Dad." Dear son, I remember when you told me, "Abba, I want to be just like you when I grow up." I gave a nervous chuckle. I cupped your hands in mine and looked you in the eyes, but before I could confess, I saw the pride in those pupils. So I hinged my lips back in place just to bask in your smile a little longer, son. I don't think you understand what it's like to be me. Don't think you can understand the immigration pains embedded in these scars. Don't know if you can comprehend how 16-hour workdays, 7 days a week can really take a toll on a man's heart, yet how sick days meant extinction. You don't know the affliction of waking up, grateful to be alive, but afraid to keep living, yet I have no time for emotions. I reminded you that crying was unmanly, because my tears would have drowned the family before the fishing boats would. But see, this world is too cruel and too relentless, will not lend its ear to our sacrifices. I come home from work every night, having been called fob more than father, been confused Chinese for chink. But see, we Asians didn't know enough English to speak back. So let our bodies, sign language, our submission, we kept our mouths shut, our chins down. Fake the smile in the face of authority. It's no wonder why America teaches black folks, the Asians are the model minority. But son, I did not bring you here to end up like me. You are too young to be your old man, and I will not allow you to pledge allegiance to the anthem of insults as I was forced to. My footsteps were never meant to be followed. They were meant to pave the roads. Your feet would never touch gravel. So please stop stepping in my shoes. I bought you brand new Nikes for a reason. I brought you here for a reason. So inherit my longings for a better life. Take my native tongue and speak with firecrackers in your throat and a dynasty in your walk. Keep the solstice in your eyes and grow jade for bones. Be as self-aware as you are stubborn, strict as you are supportive. be everything I wanted but could not be, son. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I won't be alive to teach you all these things in person. That there were survival skills that took a generation to learn. Son, I am sorry for making you a man sooner than you should be, but my son, you are a smart boy. In our family is a proud family. And there is a story in your smallpox scar and history in your blood. Men will try to cut you out of society, demand you go back to a broken country I've bled to bring you out of. They don't know the sacrifices. It is your responsibility to remind them.
Yeah, yeah. Let's give it up. Let's give it up for Son of Paper and Alex Luu. Let me just read some of the comments here for both of you. One person says, because everyone's Alex Luu here on this, waving my lighter in the air. This was an awesome format. Thank you, Alex and Kyle from Kimchi Mama. Beautiful ending piece to the show. Claps and snaps. People not wanting this concert to end. Thank you both for a great performance. Very inspiring. Best wishes in your future endeavors. Beautiful, beautiful show. So moving. Everything. Oh, I just want to say too, Alex and Kyle, the experiences that make your songs, that make your poetry, the words that you have formed to make pictures for us, to transmit deep feelings, for me, brought up the whole circle of feelings, of anger, of sadness, deep gratitude for my own ancestors, for the inspiration for letters yet to be written. Powerfully vulnerable, deeply beautiful, soul-moving. Thank you, Son of Paper. Thank you, Alex Luu. Everyone, let's hear it again. We want to move into our time of Q&A with the artists. So everyone, you should see Q&A on the bottom of your screen there. Go ahead and put in your questions that you have. What came up for you during this concert? Kyle and Alex, I'll start off with a question for both of you. In both of your works, you describe ways in which you've been made fun of, not seen, mistaken for. What would you say to youth today that are experiencing those things, and maybe for the first time?
It was hard, maybe up until middle school, to even realize what was happening. But as I got older and I had more and more positive influences around me that were also Asian American, thanks to Cameron House, really, I think it gave me awareness and made me feel less alone. And that was the first really important step. And from there, I eventually channeled it into music. So I found a platform where I don't have to speak necessarily directly to someone that is name calling or trying to belittle. I could find a way to get all of those feelings out. And I hope that me and Alex's work inspires those younger than us, especially, to actually have the courage to speak up, to know that we champion you, and we're trying to champion the Asian American voice to the best of our abilities as individuals.
My story of being harassed and discriminated against for my ethnicity stems back to when I was one of 5 or 6 Asian kids at a predominantly white Christian school. My family thought it was a good idea to put me in a Christian upbringing, and paradoxically, I got the most bullying as a kid because of my ethnicity. The whole lunchbox moment, throwing away my lunch because my friends thought it smelled bad, and eventually, at one point, throwing a Buddha throwing the Buddha that my grandma had given me down the toilet drain because the kids were making fun of me and bullying me at school. And I had a lot of an identity crisis growing up, just not knowing, like who I really am. Am I this Christian boy at school, or am I like a Buddhist, praying a child at home? And it was a tough dynamic for me to grip. And it wasn't until towards high school and college I started writing poetry and exploring more about my identity and who I am, and actually getting closer to my family throughout that process. And then finding a place to heal, to grow, to forgive people in the past who've discriminated against me. And the way that I was able to do that was through a story that another poet named G. Yamazawa had told me. He said when he was off doing shows, he's a Japanese guy that people would call Jackie Chan everywhere. And he was offended for, a majority of the time, until he realized that Jackie Chan was probably the only person that these people could recognize and relate to. And so they were actually calling him something that they saw and related to. So I would make that akin to any experience that people have of, you as a person is correlated to the last version of you that they had seen. So whether it was the last Asian media that they saw, or the last Asian friend, or, that they had made, or even when the violence against us is based on their impression of the news and how they interpret us. That's when you acknowledge that is what is happening, then you can find, or at least how I found power within myself, is acknowledging I need to make every story and every impression as an Asian man be authentic and real. And so that anyone that experiences me and other Asian Americans can know what we look like and what our stories are. And so that's my response to that question.
Yeah, thank you both. So powerful. I mean, I've been called Bruce Lee, and more recently, Jeremy Lin.
Interesting.
So I'm going to start taking audience questions so that we can really get all of your questions in. One is a sort of artist practice question from Christopher Aguilar. How do you stay disciplined to practice and memorize your songs and spoken words?
Overall, my process with memorizing and practicing is simply repetition. It's over and over and over and over again until the words sit with your spirit. And that's where you can call on, your higher self, is when the words are attached to you. So if you haven't gotten to that point yet, then it's not as memorized or in your body as you would like it to be. So it's everyone's different, but for me, it's when I know that I've listened to it when I've recorded my piece and listened to it 1,000 times, when I've been performing it to a wall 1,000 times, when I can, when someone can just off the cuff tell me to do something, perform, and then I can do it because I've put in that work. So it just becomes repetition.
Alex, there's another question for you here. What did your process look like, learning the stories of your parents and grandparents that informs so much of your poetry?
Learning process looked like learning the stories of your parents and grandparents. I'd say the process was ongoing. I can't pinpoint an exact structure because there isn't one. It was a lot of my poetry was influenced after the fact, in retrospect, of the various conversations my family and I would have about our history, our lineage. I was just curious, like, why don't I hear about this? Or why don't you want to talk about this? And the more I explored that, the more that I kept coming back to my, mother and father. I kept coming back to my grandmother and asked them what they were thinking, how they felt. And in even like asking their permission to record like conversations with them so I can look back at it and figure out how I turned out to be the way that I am, and that my family and how my family, simply exists today. So through all that influenced what I wanted to write, what I wanted to put down. And ever since then, yeah, there's still so much more I want to explore, still so much I want to say. And I don't have a clear cut for that answer, for that question. Just a simple, like, it's just been trial and error, getting to know myself and my family more.
Thank you. Kyle, how about for you in terms of your process and your family?
Well, one of the most important people is here right now, Auntie Erica G. She just knows a lot of family history and about Chinese American history in general through her work at museums. And so I have like basically a historian for an aunt. And so it's really excellent to just ask her. Oftentimes my grandparents and my mom don't necessarily know the answers, so they just refer me to Erica. But also I was an East Asian Studies major, so I in college I learned a lot more deeply about my Korean side through going to Korea during a study abroad, and as well as learning the language, which I think is also very critical to understanding your roots and traditions.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kyle. What I know doesn't, happen overnight. I mean, I learned a lot working at the Museum of Chinese in America in New York City and Angel Island Immigration Station Foundation, and also working at CCDC. These stories are sometimes very hard to pull out of our elders, who have lived through trauma and don't necessarily want to talk about it. So I commend Alex for pushing his parents and grandparents, to share and feel comfortable sharing. And sometimes, it takes another generation. Like my mom hasn't heard the same stories that I was able to hear from my grandma because, my grandma just assumed oh, you don't need to hear this to her daughter, but her granddaughter wouldn't necessarily know. And so it's important, and I think, everybody should, continue to, try to uncover these stories, because if we don't tell them to ourselves and to others, nobody else is going to tell them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to end with the last question, but I did want to address that if you, one person asked, if you're, job searching and you don't have, a whole lot of money, don't feel compelled that you have to give a financial donation. Alex and Kyle are donating their time as artists, and are creating, this fundraiser for us. So they're sharing their talents. There are other ways as artists. We've had other people, create fundraisers or create zines for us or create a dumpling making party. That all has contributed to, our community organizations, volunteer in other ways. We had delivery service to, seniors and SRO families that, that depended on volunteers. There are ways that, for community safety that people are volunteering. And I'm sure, Lorraine, there's ways that to get involved in Cameron House as well. So my last question is, this year has been tough for many people, from sheltering at home to job searches or job losses, food insecurity, the racial justice protests, and that anti-Asian violence. So Alex, Kyle, what inspires you during this time? And what role do you hope to play as artists?
I think getting back to the question of why is really important, like why I do what I do, that Alex brought up earlier in the Q&A. I think that my why, like why I do Son of Paper music, has been very clarified over this last year, for better or worse. I mean, I really did not expect that it would take all of this violence to get visibility, but and to be heard and to be given a stage, but that's what it is. And it also makes me feel like what I'm doing has greater impact and has solidified as my understanding of self, understanding of the art that I'm making, who it's for. And I always, when I started, I always thought I wanted to be a role model to those who didn't have a role model that looked like them. And because that's kind of how I felt a little bit growing up. There's not really that many Asian American men in the arts being vulnerable, really expressing, talking about traumas, talking about hardships, and being in hip hop. So this is kind of was an early impetus for me to start. And more than ever in 2021, I feel like this is what I need to do for the time being.
Yeah, beautiful reflection, Kyle. Appreciate that, man. My inspiration has to come from the elders in our community, specifically my grandma. And I've mentioned her in my poetry a couple of times, but I want to bring up a personal story, just acknowledging that Asian elders are the ones being attacked on the streets. Of course, everyone has been frightened to hell for their grandparents, and so was I. Actually live with her. She's actually I'm upstairs. She's right downstairs. And I remember, especially with the Atlanta shooting, I was angry, full of rage the whole week, right? Because these are, elderly women who look like my grandmother. And my grandmother on my mother's side was also a masseuse. And so all that pain was so visceral, and I'd felt it for, at least a week and some change, at least 1 or 2 weeks before I could finally, settle down. But throughout all that, and me telling my grandma, you got to protect yourself. You got to, you just, all right, temple and home. That's it. Temple and home. Just, and then she was the one that was reassuring me, the way that she spoke with me with her years of experience and years of wisdom, and sat me down and talked to me and was assuring me and still taking it seriously, not as like, oh, don't worry about it, but more of like, hey, I understand what's going out there. It's not something I haven't already experienced. And seeing the strength that she's had and the resilience that she's had, like, that is what fuels me as an artist and what my responsibility and duty is to do. Like what Erica had said, which was to be historians, be that generation that shares those stories. I lean onto that all the time. And if I can do that, then I consider that a win and a success for not only my family, but for the community and the people that I love and adore. So that's my response as an artist.
That's so great that, you're taking these times and finding, our elders, our family stories, each other as our inspiration.
So unfortunately, we don't want to go. I want to continue, but we do have to end. And we want to just thank you again, Son of Paper and Alex Luu, for standing up and creating and speaking forth your truths that we can all identify with, that you can speak for us and encouraging us to find our ways that we're going to speak our own stories too. So thank you so much. And thank you for putting on this concert for us this afternoon, and to support Chinatown CDC and Donaldina Cameron House. And everyone who is here today, thank you so much for spending this time with us. And find ways to be in community, find ways to stand up and to role model, find ways to contribute what you have and who you are in amazing ways. So please continue to support Son of Paper and Alex Luu. Go to their websites, go to their social media, everything. Just continue to surround them and support them. And everyone, take good care.
Yes. And likewise, definitely follow Cameron House and CCDC and support their mission as organizations that are supporting the community in the various ways that they do. We're super grateful to have partnered with you guys for this event. It was our honor to bring our talents and bring our stories and share with your community. Thank you specifically to Kyle for introducing me to you all. Thank you all for coming out and seeing our work and receiving. And I wish you all strength, power, and safety for the times to come. Thank you all for coming by today.